item, there's also the office, the presidents, that is part of us, that will then also be able to give us their assessment on the two bills, so you can remain on virtual and listen to all other presenters. And thank you very much for your time.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I just have one question.
Okay.
I noticed there's very few organizations doing presentations. Is this the total number of people that responded? And if so, is that going to affect the process in that it's not a representative enough of organizations in this country? And thanks for the invitation to stay on. In fact, I'm at a political workshop as we speak. So I stole some time to engage with you all because I felt that was very, very important. If you could answer that question, because furthermore, I represent another 119 organizations countrywide, non-profit organizations. So I would like that to be taken into account because I'm seriously concerned with the low number of presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bola. In fact, the advert went out for 6 weeks for these two bills, but however, those that have responded to the advert are the only parties and the obvious our stakeholders and individuals. So we will then, if there are issues, then we'll also discuss as a portfolio committee, including the department. But for now, the only stakeholders that have responded to our advert are the only ones that are presenting yesterday. They've presented yesterday and today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I wish you well again for the day, Madam Chair and the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bola. The next presentation is Pari. Oh, it's Kosato. You're sorry. The next presentation is Kosato.
Good morning, Chair and members. Apologies, it seems that laptop's not connecting to the screen, but we can just go through our presentation so long. I think thanks to members for giving us time as COSATU just to share our views. We view this as quite an important bill. There's been a lot of good work around it, and I think one more critical intervention around as well. Apologies to Honourable Schreiber, he won't see me, but he'll see a column. So, Chair, look, I think as COSATU, it's not a marginalization of the DA. There's no brick wall between us. So, Chair, look, as COSATU, we do welcome the Public Service Amendment Bill. We had engaged with it quite extensively at NEDLAC with the Department of Public Service and Administration, Department of Labour, and I think we had some very helpful, very good engagements. In the beginning, we were quite concerned about quite a few of the provisions, and we really had strong objections to them. But I think we're quite pleased that I think most of these issues managed to resolve in a win-win, positive manner. Obviously, taking into account our need to defend workers' rights, the constitutional, the labour rights, etc. But I think also supporting government in its efforts to deal with state capture, build a capacitated developmental state. Chair, we had initially thought that it was the DPSA afterwards that it changed one critical clause in the bill, but after engaging with colleagues in the DPSA, we realized that it wasn't them, it was the state law advisor who had deleted it. For us, it was quite a critical section of the bill that I think all of us had kind of achieved positive engagements and consensus on it at NEDLAC and the PSABC, between government, business and labour. So we are proposing, that's our main proposal for this presentation, is that we should look at reinserting this specific clause in terms of the bill that we had been agreed to at NEDLAC and signed by all parties. So, Chair, just in terms of our support for the bill, it's based upon kind of a few key premises. And we know these are all kind of politically sensitive issues. So the first one is around the limitation of political rights of heads of department or DGs and the officials reporting directly to them. So I think, Chair, look, we don't take our constitutional democracy lightly or Bill of Rights lightly. We think when we start beginning to tinker with them, to tamper them, it can become a slippery slope. Where do you start? Where do you stop? So I think for us, yes, the limitation of political rights is a very sensitive issue. It's a constitutional matter, should be handled quite delicately, and also handled a level of sobriety as well. The initial draft of the bill sought a blanket ban on all 1.2 million public servants from holding office in a political party. So we felt that it was really significantly overreached on the constitutional aspects. It would have moved from a simple, mere constitutional limitation for a small category of persons, HODs and those reporting directly to them, which was in the very original draft, to an outright ban of a large number of people's public constitutional rights. We understand that in the Constitution there's always a limitation of rights, but the point is to get the right balance and not to go to a blanket ban, because that begins to undermine the Constitution. But sure, we had a lot of good engagements on this issue with the department, and we're really pleased with the provisions in the bill that's before the members today, that we've kind of reverted to the original draft of the bill, which simply seeks to limit the rights to hold office to the heads of department, a DG, for example, and those officials reporting directly to them. So that we think is a fair, a rational compromise. We think it can pass constitutional muster. We then support that, as Kosato said. Let's limit the political rights to hold office only to DGs and those reporting directly to them. So, Chair, we think you could argue, for example, that you may not want a commissioner of the police, a chief of the defense force, a DG of state security, or a SARS commissioner to hold office in a party. We understand that in terms of public perceptions, it's fine. But we had thought it was a bit too extreme to say let's include that to a nurse or to a cleaner or a security guard. So I think for us, the clause in the bill as it is now, it's a fair compromise, and we support it fully. And we do appreciate the kind of the openness that government showed when they engaged with us. Chair, then the other issue around the recovery of overpayments to officials. So that's where our proposal to reinsert some clauses comes back in. So we don't question the need to recover overpayments. That there's no dispute around that. I think it's about the modalities to doing so. So we agree that the recovery of overpayments is an obligation upon the state. It's legally acceptable. But I think the point is to handle it with care, to avoid inadvertently plunging workers or their families into financial hardship. And yes, those of us who might be middle class or those who might be well off, would just simply say, recover the money one time, no problem. But I think when you have public servants, like any other workers who are really drowning in debt, they'll make a mistake. That when they get their money, chances are it's gone the next day. So we're not disputing the need to recover it, you must, but it's how we do it. So we were quite disappointed as Kosato that we had very positive engagements at NEDLAC with government and the PSCBC as well. We had reached consensus. There was specific wording that government had drafted based upon that, and that government, business and labour had all reached consensus on it. We signed off on it at NEDLAC, etc. And then to find out later that the Chief State Law Advisor said, well, it's not necessary, let's just delete it. So one is that we think that's a bit of an act of bad faith on the part of the State Law Advisor. If a provision is not unconstitutional, it shouldn't be removed. The State Law Advisor must be tasked to say, is this clause constitutional or not? If it's not constitutional, yes, remove it. But if it's not unconstitutional, if it enriches a bill, then they should not be interfering on it. We think it really makes it difficult to engage in NEDLAC with government, good faith, not knowing that with the State Law Advisor, just take a red pen and start deleting randomly, or not taking into account the context, what informs government's decision, what informs labor or businesses' viewpoints, etc. And of course, it makes it difficult to engage if you're not knowing our party's agreement going to be upheld. So we made a few proposals, Chair. As part of the problem right now, Chair, in the clause right now, it simply says that the official, the HOD, must recover the overpayment from the public servant, and that's it. If the public servant doesn't consent, then it's escalated to a legal intervention. Now, the problem there, Chair, is that if you're a nurse, you're making 10,000 Rand a month, your HOD says we must recover 10,000 from you next month. As a nurse, you're going to be very scared of provoking a legal issue, a disciplinary matter. You'll simply just fold and say, okay, fine, recover it. Knowing that you're going to plunge your family into a crisis next month because now you have no salary, and that's going to create a cascading effect where you're going to go borrow money from loan sharks. It just gets out of control quickly. So the clauses, Chair, and it's in our submission in our PowerPoint, sorry, apologies that it can't be shared here, was just simply to reinstate the clause that government had drafted, that we had all agreed to, around the overpayment of, the recovery of overpayment to officials. So what does clause B by the substitution in section 2 for paragraph BI? To say, number 1, An accounting officer may recover such overpayment by way